guys, hopefully I'm live now and you can see me. If anyone is there, please feel free to write a comment to let me know that you can see and hear me okay. And we're just going to wait a second for Jen to join us as well, who is our guest today. Hi Lauren, glad you're here. Okay, you can hear and see me, that's good. And Jen is also here. So I'm just going to figure out the tech so that we can get Jen live on this with us, so that it's not just me talking the whole time. I hope you're all having a good day. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Today I'm in Nottingham in England. It's terrible weather and very cold, so if you're somewhere sunny, I'm very jealous. Hi Jen. Whenever you're ready, if you just want to request to join and I'll get you on with us. I'm assuming that everyone who is in the group already knows me. I'm Vicky from the Fashion Business Coach. Hi India, Design Source and Concept C3, if that's right. Nice of you to join us today. I'm Vicky, founder of the Fashion Business Coach, which you may know already, but if not, basically we help small and startup fashion brands to launch and scale successfully. Jen is having some technical trouble, so let's try and figure that out. Sorry about this, guys. Okay, I will just introduce what's happening today while Lauren and Jen get this tech side of things sorted. So if you're new around here, you might not know that we do a monthly Discover series. Wow, India, amazing. Very, very jealous. It must be so much warmer there. In the Discover series, what we do is showcase either brands or influencers or just Instagram accounts that are doing really great things in the space of sustainability or ethics or a diversity, anything good, anyone that's putting anything good out there in the world essentially. So what we want to do on the Fashion Business Coach profile is to really just showcase people that are doing well and doing good things and really inspire you guys to be mindful of the impact that your business or your actions as a consumer have on the world and how you can actually make a difference. So that's the purpose of the Discover series. And we also want to highlight good causes that you can support and things that you can do as an individual and as a business as well to try and make that positive impact. So she's not here right now, but we will get to Jen, who is founder of Conscious Artists, which is a makeup agency that represents hairstylists and makeup artists who use cruelty-free products, and Jen herself is very interested in sustainability as well. So today we're going to be talking about ethics in the beauty industry and sustainability from my side, the fashion side, and then the beauty side as well. Jen is here, so I'm just going to add her in. The tech is good to us and it works. Let's see. Can you hear us, Jen?
Yes.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Is there an echo or is it sounding good to everyone?
No. Oh, it sounds good to me, but...
Okay. All right, that's good. Nobody's complaining, so let's go with that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today. And I've briefly introduced you to the audience, but if you want to kind of expand on that and tell us a little bit about why you started Conscious Artists and why it was important to you and everything, that'd be great.
Yeah. So my background in the fashion industry is modelling, which I've done for about 8 years, and I've really enjoyed it. I've got to work with loads of different brands and travel, and there's been so many perks to that. And then about 5 years ago, I think I just had a kind of awareness. I started researching things. Sustainability has become much more of an issue, or just more talked about. And, I discovered things like supply chains weren't ethical, minimum wages weren't ethical, and obviously cruelty in beauty, in makeup. And I guess I just hadn't considered it that much before, but I was obviously a part of it because the beauty industry and the fashion industry literally work hand in hand. So I just started making some changes. I also looked at ingredients and stuff that were in my home kind of skincare things. And I decided I wanted to stay away or try to avoid kind of plastics and BPAs and phthalates, which can be hormone disruptors and things like that. And I didn't know about
knew
that.
Even that. I'm already learning stuff, which is scary to know.
And so I kind of I even tried making my own stuff, but to be honest, everything I ordered came in like plastic bottles, and then I felt like, oh, it's not really helping my cause.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many brands out there now, which is amazing. And I think because I started making those changes in my personal life, it just became more apparent to me when I was at work that maybe it wasn't translating so much, and maybe it wasn't thought about. And obviously it's difficult, because once you have the awareness, you can't take that away. And I just thought sometimes I'd be on a job and it would be for a more sustainable brand, but it wouldn't reflect in the makeup. And I've got nothing against any makeup artists. Like some makeup artists are my best friends. And and again, it's just like doing the research. And so I just felt like there was a bit of a missing link. And I, at the same time, was kind of exploring more into sustainability and ways that I could, you know, make a change in a way, because I think, especially now, people realize that their individual choices are part of a bigger change, which is amazing. And I guess that's how I felt. So that was a starting point for Conscious Artists, really. And also last year I thought, oh, I might try and organize a test shoot just for myself. And I thought, oh, I'll try and find a cruelty-free artist to work with. And I thought it'd be easy. I just thought I'd Google or look on Instagram. And actually it was really difficult. I did find some, but it took me time. And I thought, well, if it's taking, I've got the time to do it, but production companies and fashion brands, are they really going to take the time out of their day to search and, you know? And I thought, well, probably not. And it's not that accessible, not as accessible as I just thought, oh,
no, it's not at all. You're right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, just from my own experience through work and then seeing this kind of gap, I just thought someone needs to do something, or there should be an option out there that makes it easier to be able to book a cruelty-free makeup artist. So
and
that was it,
so
really.
Glad that you did. Because exactly what you just described, like myself as like a brand owner, and then obviously working with a lot of other brands through the Fashion Business Coach, I myself have been like a cruelty-free shopper personally for, I guess, like 10 or so years in terms of like beauty products and brands that I buy. But then trying to find that in a professional capacity was really, really difficult. So it was really good that you actually messaged me on LinkedIn, and then it all kind of came together, because
I'm so glad as well.
Yeah, well, thank you for reaching out. That all worked out really well, because it was something that I'd been searching for, and then really until you came along with that idea, there wasn't really anybody kind of catering to that need.
Yeah, I just think it should, hopefully my plans is that it should work well for brands that are more ethical, sustainable, or at least trying to be, because obviously it is more at the forefront of people's minds now, and companies. I just think, well, if I'm providing a service that is there, it's accessible, it's easy, then it feels good to kind of be able to link these people together that have the same values. And I think people working together that have the same values in any capacity, in any industry, is a good thing anyway.
Definitely. And that's like two of the core things I teach really about sustainability, that one, you've got to have it across your whole business. It's no good just saying, oh, I use sustainable fabrics, therefore I'm a sustainable brand, because you've got to take it so much further. And, you know, the cosmetics and the photo shoots and all that advertising side really pulls into that as well. And then the second thing is about collaboration. There's no point keeping everything secret to yourself, and then, you know, then the industry as a whole can't grow as fast, because if everyone's keeping it to themselves, like, we're all having to figure everything out, you know, for ourselves. And it just takes that whole lot longer.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely good to kind of collaborate with people, and also through Instagram and LinkedIn, you can find people like we've connected, and it feels good to connect with people as well, and, you know, help people out, and there's encouragement and support there because you're kind of fighting the same battle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see India Design Sources agreeing with us there. So that's good that we're not the only ones that think that we should be sharing information. I know it is hard when you're working for big companies, especially, like there's so much secrecy around like what you can and can't share. And that's one thing I do love about being a small business. Like you can control what information you're happy to make public, and how much you can work together, which is really, really helpful.
Yeah, I think misinformation is such a big thing, especially with sustainability and especially with makeup, because I mean, I speak to my friends and people don't actually realize that kind of animal testing still happens, because you wouldn't think the company could get away with it. And especially there's celebrities endorsing the brands, so you kind of think, well, they wouldn't want animals to suffer and they wouldn't be okay with that. but they use clever wording and they can kind of mask the fact that they do test on animals. And they can say a lot of things like, we don't ask anyone to test on our behalf. They can make it seem good, but if any statement like that is followed by unless required by law, then personally I would write them off, and it means that they're probably selling in China, which they require by law for you to be tested on animals. So
yeah, so I guess for anyone that's kind of new to this cruelty-free concept, essentially if a brand sells in China, they're not cruelty-free on the basis that to sell in China you have to test on animals.
Yeah, there is a bit of a loophole. So like Barry M, I think they manufacture in China, but they don't sell in China. And I know there's a lot of things that can be confusing, but I just thought I'd point that out. If it's manufactured in China but not sold in China, then they could still be cruelty-free. But any brand, any brand, even if they're manufactured here or in any country, but they sell in China and China has to import, then it's subject to the animal testing.
Okay, that's good to know. And that's the thing, it gets so confusing with this kind of small print and all, well, if this is the case, then this isn't the case, and so on. Is it something that you're finding is progressing a lot? Like, are you seeing that there's an increasing amount of brands who are either transitioning to cruelty-free, or an increase in startup brands that are working to be cruelty-free, like from the get-go?
Yeah, definitely. I think from my own just personal experience of observing over the last kind of 5 years, there's definitely more brands. And I think maybe before that, or 10 years ago, people might think that a cruelty-free brand is a bit like niche, or maybe a bit odd, or not as good. Like the one that I knew was the Body Shop, so I would just assume you're using the Body Shop, which is great, but maybe there isn't that much choice. But now it's not like that at all. And I know like Glossier started out as a small business, and now that's huge
now. Literally wearing their products today. Love them.
Yeah, exactly. And they're as good, and it's proven by makeup artists out there who are doing great. Like MJ's a massive makeup artist, and she uses all cruelty-free, and it's not a weird niche anymore. And also just thinking about sustainability, it's more of a conversation in general. It's more mainstream in general. So I think that there's no excuse for it anymore. I think if people are kind of aware and they've done the research or they found out, then it's the obvious choice. And I just think it's growing all the time, because I think it's a nice feeling to feel like you're part of a movement or you're part of something. And just by like one decision, like when your mascara runs out, instead of sticking to your shopping habit of like going to Boots and buying from whatever brand, L'Oreal or something, just changing that one habit, change it, like it makes an impact. You're not endorsing that anymore, you're not endorsing that company. But one thing I'd say, a lot of brands like Elvive have brought out like a vegan formula, but it doesn't mean the company is cruelty-free. And that's also another confusing thing, because what's in that bottle or in that product might be vegan, and it obviously draws people in, and it's kind of like jumping on the bandwagon for that company, but the company still tests on animals, and there's no accreditation to that because they put vegan formula on the bottle. So that's another thing that can be difficult to kind of like navigate. And there's good accreditations, like PETA do a cruelty-free one, and a cruelty-free and vegan one, so that's good to look out for. Leaping Bunny, I say Leaping Bunny is probably the kind of gold standard for like all brands. So if you go on there and it's listed, then you're definitely safe.
That's good. Sorry if you can see me smiling. We've got quite a few people that are waving at us and saying hi, which is really, really nice to see people. But just picking up on what you were just saying, like I find exactly the same with sustainable fashion in that side of things. Like I see so many particularly big brands at the moment that are kind of noticing that there's a big customer interest in sustainable products. So they'll release a sustainable product or a sustainable like small range.
Definitely.
But it's important to remember that the rest of their business is potentially still doing really bad stuff, and they're just trying to offset with this one collection. So for me personally as a shopper, and also the way that when I'm working setting up a sustainable brand, we want to be thinking about it as a whole. So personally I wouldn't buy from a brand who have a sustainable option but as a whole they're not sustainable, because really you're still supporting businesses that are doing incredibly bad things to the environment and people and so on.
Exactly. I think it's quite nice now how people can support, like, or want to support small businesses more. I think there's been a bit since lockdown. I think that's also happened because like people can't just go out to the high street, and so it's encouraging people maybe to like look more locally or look on Etsy or find someone that's selling something, which I think is great for fashion.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, fashion and beauty is so closely related, and I guess the majority of my followers are interested in fashion and yours beauty. What collaboration opportunities do you think that there are there? I know we kind of touched briefly on how important it is, but how do you think we can sort of be working together more as a kind of wider industry as a whole to make sure that these changes are happening and happening faster as well?
I think Instagram is a massive tool. So brands that we've worked with that also kind of have the same values, they always seem quite keen to tag us. They've always like tagged us in something or said, you know, makeup artists book through conscious artists because it looks good for them and it's great for us because it's promotion on both sides. And we always want to tag them because it's great to show who we're working with. It's great to show that companies are interested in going down a more sustainable approach, and if the option's available then they've taken it, which is great. I also think that as a whole, like fashion, beauty, production, if conscious choices are made in all three of those areas, then that's going to make a change, because the production company, I know there are actually like greener production companies now trying to reduce their one-use plastic and stuff, because that's quite wasteful, and obviously fashion's quite wasteful. So just if those industries all are conscious and all making decisions in the right direction, then I think that will make a difference, and it's kind of a collaborative effort from everyone.
Absolutely. And I think, like we said at the start, going that step further, so thinking past, I guess from my side, like being a designer, yes, we want to think, okay, we can use really great fabrics and make sure that the people sewing our clothes are getting a fair wage and so on. But then what happens? Like, for instance, a lot of people I work with just produce clothing, but then in their photo shoots, they'll have like bags and shoes and accessories. And I think it's important that we support other small businesses that are, you know, producing the shoes and the accessories sustainably. And then people like yourself doing the makeup artistry and everything, so that it's all coming together. And then, like you said, just tagging each other and supporting each other can help with that awareness side of things as well.
Yeah, you're so right, because the amount of times I've been on shoots and for the styling, the shoes will be from Zara, or there'll be a bag from Zara, because like it looks good and they don't want to spend loads of money, which is understandable. But there are other brands out there that would actually be willing to collaborate and be willing to lend their shoes or their bags for a shoot, which makes more sense. And if it's accessible and it's out there, which it is through Instagram and things like that, then that is a really big way in which it can make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. I'm smiling again because Kate has joined, who is a friend of mine who is a teacher in this area. So another thing I do want to highlight is the power of education, because I don't know if you find the same, but I find within the fashion industry, when I'm talking to people who are just kind of interested in fashion but not involved in it as a business or a career, they kind of don't realize that any of this stuff goes on. Like they never associate the production of clothing with death and destruction, which is really dramatic to say, I know, but it is literally that true. And I think about people like my mum, who is like, obviously I'm going to say she's the most amazing person, but you know, she's really caring, and animal charities and stuff, she does loads of work with those. But until I said to her, hey, did you know this brand of like foundation you're putting on your face like does this and this to animals? And she's absolutely horrified, because I mean, obviously the brands don't want to make it public what they're doing, but it's quite hard, although I would argue getting easier to find this information out about what people are doing, but you do still have to look for it, I think, quite hard.
Yeah, you definitely do. And as you said, like education, awareness, research are probably the biggest kind of things to overcome. Like once you've done the research, once you're a bit educated about it, it's kind of, it becomes so obvious, and like your choices then become much easier. It's easier to change your shopping habits. It's easier to kind of like feel conscious and feel a bit responsible when you go into Boots or somewhere and think, oh no, I think I'll probably avoid that brand. And another thing, I think back, I don't know, not so long ago, people thought that you had to have more money to shop cruelty free. And I don't agree with that. especially now, like Superdrug do their own range, B Beauty, and there's NYX, NYX, Elf. You know, they're inexpensive. They're also in Boots. They're in Superdrug. It's high street prices, and it's good as well. You know, you want to go in and you just want like an eyeshadow palette. Like Elf do a great range of eyeshadows. So yeah, you can obviously there's a range, but there's a range of like how much you want to spend in everything. So yeah, I think it's really accessible now.
Yeah, which is really good because, you know, a lot of people, especially I know a lot of my followers, they are on that budget, and it does mean that it's accessible whether you're like a student or a millionaire. Like there's something for everybody price wise, which is great. In terms of like, I guess one big tip that would, for anybody watching this thinking I really want to get started in like sustainability or cruelty free, what do you think is like the first step that they can take that's going to be manageable for them, I guess, to achieve?
I think thinking about it, like, don't get overwhelmed by it, because it's really easy to suddenly probably follow loads of accounts and think, oh my god, there's so much information out there, it's all a bit scary. Just what I would say, just one thing at a time. Like if your foundation runs out, or you just want to treat yourself and get a new one, just think about where you're going to buy it from. And I'd really recommend the Ethical Elephant website. That's my favorite one to go to. It's laid out really nicely. It's really easy to navigate through. And yeah, just one step at a time, one thing at a time. Don't feel like you have to chuck everything away overnight. Use up what you have and just replace as you go. Or if it's your birthday and you want something, you know, it can just be a really easy, slow process.
Yeah, and I think that's good to kind of take it as a one step at a time thing, because if you kind of say today, having never thought about any of this before, like, oh, like from today I'm inspired, I'm going to be cruelty free from now on, like you say, you will get really overwhelmed because there's so many things that you're going to be learning, and it's great to make that commitment and make that kind of statement to yourself. But I think if you just pick, and similarly with anybody wanting to start shopping sustainably fashion wise, just have a starting point and do a bit of research and just spend a little bit of time familiarizing yourselves with some names that are working really hard to be sustainable. And then next time that you do, like you say, run out of something or need something, you've got that go-to then. So it's not like, so for me now, because I've been doing cruelty free and sustainable for so long, I know which brands are sort of safe, so to speak. So it all becomes a whole lot easier. But that first time, even if it's just, as you say, picking a particular product and doing a bit of research around that and going from there, like, it all helps.
Yeah,
and I think that's one thing that, you know, so a lot of people might say, oh, well, it's just me, like I'm only one person, how much difference can I make? But I always think of it in the sense that if you're buying something, like giving a company money for something, you're essentially voting, because you're saying to that company, yes, I agree with you, I like your products, I support what you're standing for. And even just shifting that spend to somebody who is trying harder and is doing better, that can make a big difference, because companies are always going to start taking notice when people stop spending money with them.
Yeah, definitely.
Taking away their power. And
yeah, exactly. Any step is a step in the right direction, and every time you buy something, you're endorsing that company, you're endorsing what they do. So if they're not called, unfortunately, you are endorsing that, even if you don't know it. I think I would say that the power of knowledge is super important, and also the power of your purchases, because that, at the end of the day, that's what speaks.
Definitely. And like when we're talking about those big brands, a lot of them starting to shift towards more sustainable practices. And honestly, I don't really believe that they care in terms of actually having a heart and having in like their workers' best interests at heart. But the reality is people are putting pressure on them, so they're having to change. So, you know, yes, one person is just one person, but when more people start doing it, we've seen the kind of shifts that we've seen over the past kind of year, especially, but in the last kind of 5-10 years, like when I first started out doing this stuff, people thought I was a hippie and kind of always compared me to Phoebe and Friends, like that kind of airy fairy sort of person. So it's nice that I'm not the only person talking about this anymore, and people are making a difference.
And you're being taken seriously, and everyone is taking it seriously. Like everyone's taking things more seriously, from kind of even David Attenborough documentaries. It's getting in there and actually making people realize, like, oh, it's not just my friend that talks about this, it's actually an issue like within the world. And feeling part of that is kind of empowering, because you're consciously making choices which are better.
Yeah, for sure. And interesting you mention him. He's my absolute hero. And he's actually from where I am, and my nan used to know him, but way before my time, sadly, because I would love to like chat to him about all
that's
this
an amazing claim to fame.
such a big influence. And I think that's why even before sort of it was cool, I started to think about things you know, to do with the environment, because people like him just brought it to our attention and put it on our TV screen, so you had to think about it, which was really really good.
He's an incredible hero.
Yeah, I love him. In terms of for anybody watching this who either has a fashion brand or is starting a fashion brand, if they are wanting to work with like one of the artists that you represent, what I guess this is kind of changing tact a little bit, talking a bit more practically, what should people do? And I ask this because I've worked on a lot of photo shoots, and I've seen people who are, and I guess I was like this my first time as well, but people who are new to this, and maybe it's the first photo shoot they've been on, they just kind of show up and then expect like the makeup artist to know what they're doing and have it all figured out. So how can people really get the most of having hired somebody to work as a makeup artist on a photo shoot?
So I think something that's important is sending out a clear brief. So it's just good to know all the information, and if the shoot is for the website, for e-com, or if it's a campaign, where it's going to be used, because that can alter. Also, sending mood boards is really useful for the model, for the artist. So mood boards and reference photos, so that the artist can kind of look at it and see the exact look that they want.
Okay.
That's really useful. What else?
I mean, usually would the first time that the artist meets the brand and the model be on the shoot day, or is it sometimes necessary to have like a preparation day to kind of test out a look or match skin tone with the foundation or anything like that?
Usually just on the shoot day. So actually that's another thing. Sending an image of the model is super helpful, because then the artist can make sure that they pack the right kit, they can assess the skin tone. So that's really useful, definitely. Yeah.
And in terms of how much time you allow, because I tend to find on these shoots that things always take way longer than anticipated. So, and I'm the kind of person that's always trying to be like 2 hours early or something to prepare for any eventuality. Like, what is a smart amount of time to allocate for makeup artistry? Because I have seen some people who have sort of wanted to save time for people that are on an hourly rate, but then ended up rushing trying to do like hair, makeup, nails and everything in about 30 minutes, which I don't really feel is that practical.
I would say at least an hour per person. And also that's another thing with the brief and being specific. Knowing how many models there are or how many casts there are is super helpful, because the makeup artist is going to know, oh God, if I've got to do 5 people in the time frame, then that's not going to be possible. And maybe they need an assistant, or, you know, have to think about how they're going to get that done. So definitely just information is key, I think.
Yeah, and just giving them something to work from, because I see people, and people do this to me as well as a designer, they'll just say like, please design me an activewear range. And while I love the challenge and love how open that brief is, at the same time it's like it can go wrong so easily because it's just too wide. You just don't know what you're doing. So I always ask like a million follow-up questions, but you do want a pretty decent level of, you know, specificity in there, if that's a word.
It just helps all round. It's better for the model, because they'll know the makeup artist is coming with the correct kit. It's better for the makeup artist, it's better for the production because everything runs on time. And also another thing is telling the client should tell the model to come with just a clean face and no makeup, unless otherwise requested. Because otherwise the makeup artist could turn up and have to spend time taking makeup off just to reapply, which isn't helpful.
and just waste time then as well.
Yeah.
And in terms of if the shoot, for instance, is like a whole day shoot, presumably it makes sense to keep the makeup artist there throughout the day for touch-ups, so it's not looking, you know, super shiny or whatever it might be.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's essential on any shoot, I think, especially after lunch. You sit down, have lunch, and like things getting smudged or around the eyes needs redoing, touching up. It's always a good sign of a good makeup artist when, you know, you're on the set and they're running in and having to like fix things because they're you know, they're so tuned in.
Yeah. And it's, oh, are you still there?
Sorry if I disappeared.
Oh, no, oh, yeah.
I just rejected the call. Yeah, like they're so on it, and they see things that other people wouldn't see. And it's good when, you know, they want to check the camera and make sure that everything looks okay on camera. Because especially in like on commercial jobs, it's surprising how much makeup it looks like the model is wearing. It's just a completely different kind of style, because on camera it looks great because you almost can't see the detail. I don't know if I think it's the brighter lights or something. Yeah, compared to like an e-com shoot, which would just be more natural, or a bridal shoot, which would then be more makeup again. So yeah, it's interesting. And I think it's just nice to know that the makeup artist is like, from a model's perspective, from my work, it's nice to know that they're kind of looking out for you, and you don't have to kind of like check that everything looks okay because they're doing that for you.
And similarly, I guess, you know, just made me remember, you know, you have been a model, and again, I've seen people turn up to people, as in the brands, turn up and then not giving the model any direction. And if Kate's still watching, she'll know she was there with me my first ever shoot, and the model turned up, and then I was like, okay, let's start taking pictures, and Kate's like, you know, you've got to like tell her about poses and stuff and how you want it. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
And you know, that was a total surprise to me. And I thought, you know, you hire a model, they just do their thing and it's all good. But there's so many different ways that a model can pose, and that's really going to impact what the image looks like and the feel of it.
Yeah.
So you actually need quite a lot of direction as well, don't you? Or at least some inspiration to start off with.
Definitely. Again, like coming back to a mood board, seeing something like that is really good, because you know the kind of like vibe thereafter. And I always find it much easier on a shoot if the photographer's kind of like talking to you the whole time and saying like, oh, that looks good, or change, or whatever, because you're getting an idea of if they're happy or not, and if the client's happy or not, because at the end of the day you want the client to be happy with the results. But if they don't communicate with you that much, yeah, it's much more difficult from that perspective. And like then you're unsure, because you're like, did they get what they wanted? It wasn't really obvious.
And you know, you don't want to have that hesitation as the model or the makeup artist, the photographer, whoever. Like it works so much better when everyone's super clear on like, this is the brand, this is what they're about, this is what the shoot's about. Like, let's all work together to make it happen.
Yeah, it definitely.
And
so I was just going to say, it makes it all flow.
Yeah, it does, for sure. And you know, if everyone's on the same page, has the same like reference images and things, like we're all clear on what we're doing.
Yeah.
And one other thing I'll say to any brands out there who maybe haven't done a photo shoot before is to definitely check the screens and how the images are coming out there, because it's always really great and really fun to kind of be there where the model is and really looking at things in that way. And it's good to kind of get the close up to make sure the garments are where they should be and everything like that. But it is what the customer's going to see, or what your people are going to see in your advertising, is what's on the screen. So it's really important to make sure that's right. And having a great makeup artist there is going to help with checking that people aren't looking too washed out, for example. Just make sure that your focus and your attention is on the screen.
Yeah, and also like the camera can sometimes be a bit blurry or something in one place, and you wouldn't want to go, you know, like half an hour of shooting and then check just to see like, oh god, like her eyes blurry or something because of the screen, or something's happened. So yeah, it is always good to check. Yeah, and often on a shoot, when you've got like, I find the makeup artist, that's usually the hub. It's kind of the social section. Everyone goes there for a chat and maybe like have a cup of tea or a biscuit. And it's where everyone gets to know each other, because it's where you go at the start of the day. And so I think when you've got like a bubbly makeup artist who's chatty, and it just sets you up well for the day. And everyone's kind of like in a good mood most of the time. And it's just like, it becomes a fun day, and that's when working doesn't feel like work, which is amazing. And as an agent now, I want my artists to have jobs like that and to feel like that. And I love it at the end of the day when I get a message from the artist that's been on a job saying like, that was such a great job, like really fun day, thank you so much. Like I'm like, because I know that feeling of like coming off a job and having really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's quite rewarding, I find.
Yeah, good. And one of my favorite things as a brand owner is the shoot, because it's like potentially months of hard work that have come together from that initial idea through the sampling process, the headache of the manufacturers a lot of the time, and then there it is, like your product's ready. So it can be a really, really fun day. And I think just that bit of preparation ahead can really help to make it more successful and more enjoyable as well.
Yeah, definitely. And actually from my work, like I've done fittings, so it's like the very first prototypes for a brand, or I've done just like the e-com or a campaign, and it's just all like wholesale as well. So when it's going out to like, you know, Selfridges are coming in and seeing it for the first time, like it is interesting seeing the behind the scenes of a brand, because most people, obviously, you just see a picture maybe like in a magazine or Instagram or online, and that's just the finished product. But actually, like there's so much more to it. And before I worked in wholesale, like I didn't know that that was a job, that kind of stores come in and have private appointments and a kind of like private viewing of a collection, and they get to choose what goes into the store. I don't know, before I would have just assumed like they get given the clothes that go in the store, or and it's interesting how like different stores buy differently into the collections.
As a customer, you don't walk into a store or shop online and think, I wonder how like this went from A to Z, and people don't realize that it's a good 6 to 12 month process that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And like even getting in with those stores in the first place, you know, it's a massive deal. Like your first big appointment with a big store is huge, and it can help launch a brand so much. And being picked up by like a multi-brand showroom that then goes and shows off that collection in Paris, New York, that's huge as well for a brand. And people, it's just not something that you would know about or know is a job. It's funny.
And that's the thing in fashion, everyone thinks of like being the fashion designer, but there's actually all of these different parts to having a fashion business. So for anybody watching who maybe isn't quite ready to start their own brand yet and is just generally thinking about the fashion industry, there are a lot more avenues than just being like the brand owner and the designer. There's like a ton of different areas you can work in. So it's actually, you know, there's a wide variety of things that you can do in the industry, which I guess is why I love it so much, because there's so much option for variety, and there's always that newness and that excitement. And I wouldn't change it.
Definitely. Back when brands used to use interns quite a lot a few years ago, and that's doesn't happen so much anymore because I think they changed the law or something.
Which is good. I remember how I was treated as an unpaid intern, and it was not
fun.
So.
I know that, they have to work so hard, and often it wasn't paid, or you have to kind of like have some money behind you to be able to stay in London for a month, which is just not accessible for everyone.
No.
But a lot of the people I met, like they maybe studied fashion design but then realized they wanted to be in sales or merchandising, and you kind of think, oh, you study as a fashion designer, that means you're going to be a fashion designer. But the industry is quite open. It's got lots of different avenues. And also people can start off in a store and then end up in the wholesale team if they're just really nice.
That's how Giorgio Armani started. He was the window dresser, so there's definitely opportunities. It's definitely possible. And I actually got my very first job was in store, and then it built up into other roles and something we called merchandising. So how, and again, something you wouldn't really think of as a consumer, but how there's a job, and once it was my job, where you arrange the store in a way that looks good but also sells the most. And that is a full-time job that most stores would have. And some people like myself would go to multiple stores and really figure out how you can maximize the use of space and how everything's looking. So tons of opportunities.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because the vibe of a store, like once you walk into a store, it does either welcomes you or makes you feel a certain way, or the smell or the music and the way it's all laid out. Obviously everyone's gonna, I'm sure lots of people miss Topshop in Oxford Street, but I always just felt that was quite cluttered. Like on one of the floors, I think it was when you went downstairs, it was just like rails everywhere. It's a bit like,
For those of you in the US, Topshop was like the store, especially when I was a teenager, so like a number of years ago now. But it was like, you'd go in, it was almost like a nightclub. The music was blaring so much in that store, and it was just so full of people and stock. And sadly, it's gone into administration recently, and it's now just going to be an online retailer. So that whole store experience is gone, which is really sad, because definitely thinking back to the old days when I'd like save up my money from my like Saturday job at school. Like it was the thing. You'd go to Topshop and get a new outfit, and
kind of a day out with your friends.
For sure. I've been keeping an eye on the comments as we've gone. I think we've answered everybody's questions, but if there's something somebody wants to ask, then feel free. We can spend a few minutes answering questions if there are any. But in general, for the fashion brands out there who are looking to hire a makeup artist, what's the best way to get in touch with you, and how can they go about it?
So the website is probably the best way, which is www.consciousartist.co.uk, and then contact details are on there. But I'm also on Instagram all the time, so Instagram's also a great way to get hold of me. Yeah, they're the two main ways, I would say.
Okay. And I think from memory going on, so there's like an amazing selection of images on there actually, just to get a feel for the kind of things that can be done. And again, for anybody who's like new to this concept of cruelty-free fashion, it's not at all limiting. Like, to look at your portfolio and the artists that you have on there, you would never think, oh, this is a really niche thing that's really specialist. Like,
no, definitely not. Yeah, and you can see, like, you can search kind of certain hashtags, cruelty-free makeup or conscious beauty, and yeah, looking at that, like exactly what you said, you wouldn't think, oh, that makeup looks a bit like strange or different. Like, you would not know. And it's, once people know and they have the awareness, then I think I said this already, but it is just an obvious choice and a really easy switch. It's not like telling someone like, right, tomorrow, as from tomorrow, you have to completely have a lifestyle overhaul and you're vegan, and you know, that is a really big thing to take on. Whereas this, it can be really easy and just a gradual process as and when, and you'll end up, you're being part of a bigger impact, and it's, your choices can be good choices rather than just like regular shopping habits that you haven't thought about changing.
Exactly. And as a brand as well, like if you're putting effort into being a sustainable brand and making sure your workers and everything get paid fairly, it's just the next logical step really to make sure that anybody else that you're collaborating with, like the makeup artist, does share those values with you. And as you said, it's just so easy because you're going to have to hire a makeup artist for your photo shoot regardless, so you might as well choose one that's cruelty free.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly my thoughts, and it was just surprising that it wasn't already out there, really, because if it was already out there, I feel like it's something that I would have told people about, or like wanted to kind of just have a look at and think, oh, that's great that it's a platform basically. And I just feel that the artists I represent, and there's obviously other cruelty-free artists out there, they've already made the great decision to be a cruelty-free makeup artist and only use brands that are ethical. And I felt like it was a bit sad that there wasn't a platform out there for them, because I admire their decision. And I think fashion brands and production companies and other companies should admire it as well, but they weren't being seen. So I just hope that, as well as just creating awareness in general, that I'm just giving a platform for these artists, and to also collaborate with, you know, I think in a way they'd rather collaborate with a sustainable brand than, I don't know, a brand that you know is not really that ethical and is not doing great things. So I'm just hopefully providing that opportunity.
And I'm so glad you did, because like I said at the start, it's something that I'd been thinking about a lot as somebody who buys cruelty-free beauty myself. Like, I wanted to extend that into my business, so I'm so glad that I found you. And when we can be up and running after COVID and having shoots again, then I'll definitely be getting in touch. And just for anybody that's joined at the end, so it's consciousartist.co.uk, and at Conscious Artists on Instagram, but I'll tag you as well when I post this as a replay. So if anybody has just joined, you can watch the replay and see it from the start if there was anything you missed. And I think we have answered all the questions now, but if somebody has a question to ask later, then just feel free to write it in the comments and we can get back to you.
Yeah, definitely. If anyone ever just wants to chat to me or has questions, because I know how confusing it is with the cruelty-free and vegan, and I might have said this earlier, but the fact that the words cruelty-free and vegan aren't kind of monitored, they're not regulated. You have to look out for certain things, like those certain logos from PETA or the Leaping Bunny. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to write to me on Instagram, or like you say, in the comments. I'd be always happy to chat about it. I feel like I could go on and chat about it all day.
Oh, that's good. That's how I am with sustainability. I have to make sure that I keep checking my notes and keeping on track and not going off on a massive tangent. And similarly, that's a really kind offer. Thank you if anyone's got cruelty-free beauty questions. And similarly, if anyone wants to ask about sustainable fashion, then you can always reach out. whether it's from a personal level or from starting a fashion brand in that way, or if you're an existing brand and we've convinced you to change to be more sustainable and ethical, then that would be great as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Jen, for joining me in this. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope
thank you for having me.
Helpful.
It's been great
You're
to chat.
welcome.
And also, I think it's great what you're standing up for and helping people, and helping people see a more sustainable avenue to get to somewhere, rather than, you know, feeling like, oh, you're leaving a supply chain that isn't great behind you. So looking at that supply chain is amazing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, you know, I started this because it wasn't easy to get that kind of information, and honestly it's still not easy, but at least if I can try and give a bit of education on the best places to start and things, then yeah, it's all the good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, thank you, Hannah, who's given us the little clapping emoji. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone that came, and yeah, have a great rest of your day, guys, and we'll talk soon.
Cool, thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much. Bye, Jen.
Bye everyone.